session of AIJC 2020. We have an interpreter, a French interpreter for the session. So please select your language, go to the global icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, click English or French, and then mute the main channel so that you only get one channel. Please use the Q&A function for your questions. Thank you very much and enjoy the session.
Good day all, I am Oluwatosin Alagbe, and it's a pleasure to be here and to moderate this session. I work at the Premium Time Center for Investigative Journalism, which is a media innovation and development organization founded to promote a truly independent media landscape that advances fundamental human rights, good governance and accountability in West Africa through investigative journalism, open data and civic technology. As we probably know, campus corruption, which ranges from admission favoritism, nepotism, funds diversion to sexual exploitation, is a global problem that hinders human capital, especially in developing countries. So this afternoon, we'll be engaging with three leading minds in the media landscape who have investigated different forms of campus corruptions. They will speak to their various respective exposes, that's fake degrees, sex for marks, phony professors, after which we'll take questions and we'll engage with them. So I'd like to start with Louis Nhachote. A brief bio. Louis is an award-winning investigative journalist and has worked as a journalist for Savannah, where he started his career. He's also worked at Canal de Mozambique, Zambezi, and Confidential, and he's the current editor of the online portal Moz24H. He has been a consultant for Chatham House UK, Transparency International, Public Integrity Career Speed Program, and Executive Director of the Center for International and Mozambican Studies. He also collaborates in some international media, such as the Main Guardian, the Wall Street Journal, and Forbes Africa magazine. He's the current executive coordinator at Centro de Jornalismo Investigador. That's the first center for investigative journalism in Mozambique. Over to you, Louis.
Hi, everyone. What about my profile? My ID was now delivered by Oluwatosin. I'm based in Maputo, Mozambique, and I run the Center for Investigative Journalism, that in Portuguese is Center for Centro de Jornalismo Investigativo. Our is a non-profit organization with 10 members, and currently we have 4 investigative journalists distributed in 3 points, 2 based in the capital Maputo, 1 in Nampula, and another in Cabo Delgado. And my presentation for this session is about the fake degree. Fake degree, it's a story about a lecture we being exposed by our investigation since after we see a post on Facebook. We saw a post on Facebook, someone anonymous who accusing someone who's carrying a fake degree to being lectured at university. In according of our laws, for being a lecturer in university, you must hold a master degree. So after this post, we decide to check how this true or not about this lecture. And he is also a very known person as a political commentator at private stations TV on political foreign affairs issues, because I was teaching international relationships at one private university. So after this, we take around 3 months, go slowly and check his background profile first. So we find out that he, in fact, he was a student from International Relationships Institute, that's now called John Kishisano. So he's our former president. He's the 3rd most important university in country who forms diplomats for diplomats' career, basically. So during our searching, we find that something was hiding, because we sent queries to the university to ask them about the university to show us the copy of the honors degree who this lecture did in that university. So in according for our law of the right of information, the institution have in a maximum 21 days to respond. So that period was expired without any response. So that sounds strange for us, why the public university not giving us those information. So we start moving inside for the university on the back doors to find out. One source told us inside that, in fact, this lecture, he studied here from 2010, but he never finished his degree here in universities. And so we went, after this, we went to the university where he is lectured. So then we found a diploma of this lecture. They show us a diploma dated of 2015. So he was starting teaching a year before. So how this is possible? So after they give us a copy of that, we start digging investigation more about how the universities are giving the titles from the people who are formatted at the university. So during this searching, we find that he has a really degree who was made it after we started doing an investigation with him. So he was informing from his sources, because he's a public person. So that's the Center of Investigative Journalism is investigating him. So he rushed to defend his thesis of honor degree. So they gave him, but at the university, when he was lectured, he was made inside as a student a master degree, a really master degree. But it's not common, it's not normal. Someone make first, like you make a PhD first, and then you make master. So the process, normal process, you start from honors, master, and then a PhD. So we expose the old documents, and we show that how the universities, how the people are holding titles in Mozambique, like those guys like these guys we expose it. And in our stories, we show that since he becomes a television commentator, he was manipulated people in introducing himself, and also if he's giving him the title, the fake title, that he is a master degree. So after we make the first and second expose, the university decide to revoke his master degree title, and they say that is because the exposés of the Center of Investigative Journalism shows that a new things for them, that they never knows that the diploma who they use to start studying master degree was fake. So after that, we keep pushing our investigation, and we find out that that was possible because previous, when he was at secondary school, he studied arts, graphic arts. So we find we have a lot of graphics in country, and we find that those diploma was made at a neighborhood, a poor neighborhood, a place. So that was the matter of the police, because our evidence was very clear. So we exposed all in a series of 4 articles, and we are keeping pushing not more on this lecture, but as soon as possible we'll continue the series, because we have another big case of someone very important in this country who holds a PhD fake degree also. That's why we're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Louis. This is a very interesting investigation. Very, very interesting. And so what I got out of this was the fact that the Freedom of Information Act by your country, which says 21 days to respond, was what raised the flag for you guys. As soon as they did not respond to you after 21 days, you raised a flag and it led to further investigations. Thank you so much. We'll be back. And just to let participants know that you can send in your questions in the Q&A section of this webinar, so that we can throw these questions to the panelists after they all showcase their investigations. So next is Kiki Mordi. Kiki Mordi is an Emmy-nominated investigative journalist, a documentary filmmaker, she's a photographer, radio presenter, and writer. In 2019, she and her team at the BBC Africa Eye released a documentary exposing sexual harassment of students by lecturers in University of Lagos and University of Ghana. In 2017, she started an online petition to end police extortion and exploitation after some Nigerian policemen invaded her home and accused she and her boyfriend of being cultists. In 2015, she was nominated for the Most Promising Young Presenter TV at the Nigerian Broadcasters Merit Awards. And on 3rd November 2019, she was nominated for the Future Awards Africa in Prize for Journalism category. And in 2020, she won the Prize for Journalism at the People Journalism Prize for Africa Award. I'll hand over to Kiki now to just spotlight her investigation. Thank you very much, Kiki.
Thank you so much, Oluwatosin. And I have to say before I start that it's an interesting time in Nigeria right now. Young people are fighting for their rights to exist without police brutality. There is an NSARS movement that's going on right now. So forgive my voice if it's very raspy, because I've been, supporting as much as I can towards that movement. And please, this is an African platform. If you're from any other African country, don't forget to lend your voice towards Nigerian youth ending SARS. My name is Kiki Mordi. Oluwatosin has helped me with a very long rap sheet of the things that I've been up to, but I'm here to talk about the investigations of Sex for Grades, where we investigated sexual corruption in Nigerian universities. Of course, in investigating things like this, there are a lot of things that you would realize, besides the actual extortion or sextortion that happens in universities, and some of the things that Louis spoke about, which is bribery for grades, is a thing that we saw firsthand. Didn't make it to the film, but it's an important aspect to talk about. But when it comes to sex for grades, I'm going to speak for my country, Nigeria, and probably maybe Ghana, because we were in Ghana for some time. And also based on what I've heard on social media about how universities operate across Africa. It is deeply entrenched in the inequality that exists. All right. What happens is that we are a corrupt society, and the corruption is very retail. Corruption is very retail in that you beat the traffic lights, 50 naira or $1 or $2 will get you out of that problem. And as a matter of fact, it's easier for you to bribe your way out of that situation than to not. Accountability is very hard. And we replicate that template into how we treat women. And then in a small space like universities, that whole narrative is allowed to thrive. All right, so that's what we saw. There is a huge spectrum. It starts from grooming. It starts from disrespecting the autonomy of female students. and it moves on to grooming, it moves on to the absolute power that lecturers have over students. So one lecturer can have power over a student's grades, can have power over a student's accommodation, can have power over a student's, perception when it comes to their appearance. And they use all of this to their advantage, and of course, to the disadvantage of the young people. And what do they want from these young girls? They want sex, right? They see them for their bodies. They see them not for nothing more than meat. And that is how we have profiled young Nigerian women, going to university. That is how we've profiled young Ghanaian women, young West African women, young African women who want nothing but an education. We see them for their bodies and what they can do to please men. And it's very important that we discuss what corruption aspect has to do with it. Number one is that in victims fighting for justice, they do not have a platform to go to. They do not have a safe space. They do not have a safe method of reporting. And this is because every single facility is corrupt. We have a thing called the Student Senate, or the Senate. They call that, I think that's in University of Lagos, UNILAG Senate, where people are ideally supposed to go report cases of sexual harassment and other things to lecturers to get justice. But what happens there? That place is filled with the same lecturers that sexually harass these young women. So you're reporting your harasser to himself. And that way, there is no justice, there is no independence whatsoever. We also have a student union body. They call themselves ASU. They're supposed to look out for the students, they're supposed to fight for their rights. They go on strike from time to time because they have demands. Demands are not met. But when it comes to sexual harassment, they go mum. That is because that system is also very fantastically corrupt. That system is filled with people who are benefiting from a corrupt system. And so the corruption really cascades from the top to the bottom. And then we find that people with absolutely no power whatsoever, if you find yourself on the pyramid where your gender doesn't align or your financial status doesn't align, you are left hopeless and powerless, and there is no one on your side. And that is what a lot of young Nigerian women are. I mean, a young Nigerian woman that is barely 19, going to school, looking for an education, doesn't have any money of her own, doesn't have any autonomy over her body. And that means that she's prone to sexual harassment, from trying to get into admission or trying to pass her course or trying to get to the next level in school or even trying to get accommodation. And then that happens. And what happens? She also cannot get justice because the student union government is not on her side, or because not just the student union government, the Senate is not on her side. The police is not on her side. The government is not on her side. Nothing. No one is on her side. And that is like the structure that is very, very well organized, and it works. That's a structure that I discovered personally when we were investigating sex for grades. I discovered that when people say the system doesn't work, it truly does work. It just works for corruption. And corruption is the only system that works. I can speak for my country, and I know that it's replicated that way in so many other countries. And that system, that corruption system that works, has enabled the continuous sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, sextortion, and sexual abuse of young female students for over the years. We have lecturers who we hear reports from 30 years ago of sexual harassment. And what happened? Nothing. The worst that would have happened is that he got transferred to another school where he continued to sexually harass people. And so, yes, that's one of the takeaways that I feel important to share today from my investigations for sex for grades.
Thank you very much, Kiki. Organized corruption in the campus is limiting the fight and limiting justice per sexual exploitation in campuses. Thank you for that. I'll now move to Adekunle Yusuf. Adekunle Yusuf is a journalist and a Ford Foundation Fellow with a track record of professional excellence and integrity. He is a cerebral professional who is trained both abroad and in Nigeria. He holds a Master's of Arts in Journalism and from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, United States, and a Bachelor of Science in Mass Communication from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. He's now an associate editor and the head of the investigative desk at the Nation newspaper. He's a well sought after public analyst, and he regularly features on TVC's Journalist Hangouts, a program credited as one of the most popular TV programs in Nigeria. He's a serial award winner, and he cut his journalism teeth at Tell Magazine, which is Nigeria's authoritative independent weekly, where he rose to the rank of assistant editor and chairman of its chapel of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. Mr. Yusuf, over to you, where you speak about your expose.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the introduction. Adekunle is my name. I still write for The Nation. When you look at the issue of campus corruption, especially in developing countries, it's a very big issue, but I would like to limit it to Nigeria. If you look at Nigeria, it's a problem that disturbs the fabric of education in this country, from polytechnics, colleges of education, universities, both private and public. And the story is almost the same. So when you move from one university to another, what you see is almost the same. Maybe they differ in terms of degree, and that's what you see in the country. And so that was why I decided to do something some years ago. At the time, the media is always portraying University of Ilorin as like the best, and when you look at admission quotas every year, like you see that most prospective undergraduates in Nigeria at that time would choose Ilorin, and I said, okay, what's going on there? So I decided to beam a searchlight on that university. And what do you see there? What did you find out? You realize that the university is a cesspool of corruption, and that was why I did I did a 3-series investigative report on that university. So you see issues about nepotism. It's a problem in Nigerian university. When you look at student admissions, nepotism is like what determines most of what happens. When you look at staff recruitment, you see issues of nepotism. When you look at staff promotion, discipline, and all that. So nepotism is like the rule of the game. That's part of what I find out. Then, hello. So when you look at University of Ilorin, what I found out, you see issues of favoritism as well. But these are small issues when you compare with things like financial corruption. In Nigeria, the law recognizes the vice chancellor to be the chairman of or chairperson of university tender board. So in the polytechnics, in the colleges of the education, so the head of the university or the head of the polytechnic usually chairs the tender board. So this has always brought about a lot of tension within the academic community. That is to say, you see various actors trying to manipulate the system. They want to be the rector, they want to be the vice chancellor. At the point in Nigeria, it was even a big issue, so much that the federal government had to come in and make sure that when you get into the position of vice chancellor, you don't get a second time. You only do one time and go, because the infighting was always a problem to academic calendar. But if I come back to Ilorin, I found out that the then VC and the man before him, so the then VC was collecting a lot of money that was totally illegal, the money that he wasn't entitled to collect. The man then was, the VC then was a veterinary doctor, and by our laws, if you are a veterinary doctor, you are paid, if you are a professor of veterinary medicine, so you are paid the same way, professors of medicine, professors in the medical colleges are paid. In Nigeria, medical professors collect more money than the regular professors. Reasons being that many of them, apart from teaching and research, they also do work in the teaching hospitals. So more or less they collect 2 salaries. And when you value their remuneration, you realize that it's like double of what their colleagues that are not in the medical line, collect. So before the then, VC became the VC, was collecting the salary of a medical professor. So by the time he came into office, then problem started. He was collecting double salary. He was collecting 2 salaries, collecting the salary of a vice chancellor, which is paid and is known to everybody. They was also collecting the medical professor's salary. So this was a problem, but they didn't see it as that. Then the immediate administration of the university that handed over to him. So they played a lot of roles in making him the vice chancellor. So when the man left, the man I'm talking about now is now the registrar of JAMB in Nigeria. JAMB is the federal institution that oversees university admissions in Nigeria. So at that time, many years after the former vice chancellor had left the university, what the system was supposed to do was, this man was no longer in the university. He had quit the system, but he said he was embarking on his accumulated leave. And you know what they were doing? They were paying him the full salary and allowances of a vice chancellor. I collected this throughout the tenure of the man that succeeded him. So I was monitoring all this, and he didn't do it alone. All the people that served with him, like Bossa, like registrar, like university librarian, all the people in the administration, they were collecting the same salary after they had left this. So that is part of what interested me, and I decided to wade in and did a report. So along the line, unfortunately, I realized that those that were supposed to help the country, that is institutions like the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the National Wages and Salaries Commission, the Office of the Accountant General, the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, and all of you realize that officials from such, government institutions, when they come every year, because by law, they have to audit the university. So when they come, do you know what they do? They will see everything that is wrong, then they do their report. They will call it, I think, temporary report. Then they place before the university, and that provides the opportunity for them to discuss and negotiate. Then the school will pay them. They didn't know I was monitoring them. I'll go from my office in Lagos, I'll go down. Usually I knew whenever they want to come, I have people in the system. So I'll go, they wouldn't know that somebody was monitoring them. So usually they will get 6 million, 10 million. Initially they will bargain for 15, then you see a lot of negotiation, at least 7 million, 6 million. And I monitored them for some years, then I did my report. So there's a lot of tension when the report came out. And unfortunately, many people didn't see it. That some people didn't see it as they believe that maybe there were ulterior motives to it. That what will I do? Why will I spare my time, so long to investigate a university? That why will I expose so much and all that? But at the end of the day, what happened was that the office of the Auditor General, issued query to some people. Some of these people I mentioned, and some of them were asked to refund a lot of money. I knew somebody who refunded 30 million naira. I knew people who returned 17 million and all that. So that's some years ago, I mean about 2 years ago, in the same university, the one I talked about was about financial corruption and all that. In the same university, there is the Association of academic staff. We call it Academic Staff Union of Universities. the local chapter of that association, I mean Unilorin, the associate professor was all through his career, he was a product of academic dishonesty. Or every publication of his, everything is plagiarized. This thing, I decided to do a report about it. You know, I copied where I copied from, and all these things we were able to do. As usual, many people still, you know, condemned, you know, the report that why University of London, why not focus on another university? But the truth is that nobody was able to fault the report because nobody, you know, tried to blackmail or lie about anybody. You know, in this age and time, it's easy to know a plagiarized, you know, document from the original document. So the links to the original document, the content and everything, but when you check it, everything should. So that's some of the little things we'll be able to do about campus corruption in Nigeria. Then when you look at a recent report by a civil society organization in Nigeria, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, they call it SERAP. It's a big NGO, you know, in Nigeria. When you look at their studies, was it not last year? They came out with a wide report, findings about corruption in Nigeria. You see a lot of financial, you know, improprieties, you know, embezzlement, misapplication of funds in several universities in Nigeria. And the same many dimensions of it, you see the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, you know, coming into the fray to, you know, prosecute people, provide charges against many of them, and who are the people we are talking about? They are either chairman of governing council put in place by the government, you know, to oversee the university, the vice chancellor, the bursar, the pro-chancellor. Usually, those are the actors that usually, you know, are usually involved in, you know, financial corruption in our university. So maybe I should pause a bit in case questions, you know, there are questions for me.
Thank you very much. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much, Yusuf. Very interesting. I like that you started by saying that, so a lot of people think that corruption, or rather campus corruption, is limited to just the public universities. It's more than public universities, it's the public and the private. And it's not just, so apparently even organizations, institutions outside of the campus also enable campus corruption. And again, thank you for speaking to your expose. So there's a quick question here. There's a question here from, there's a question, and I'll direct this to Kiki. If a campus journalist is victimized for exposing corruption, what should he or she do legally?
So there is the legal aspect of this. Usually, ideally, there are bodies in the universities that you can definitely report to, and you can gather support from your colleagues, students like you, to come up with numbers so you can go and report. But in reality, that doesn't always work. So I would say prevention is a good way to prevent victimization. You have to put out information that, and you have to get allies. You have to put out information that sort of protects you. So for example, when I did Sex for Grades, and I put it out there in the open that lecturers with these names, for Dr. Boniface Ibenehu and the other lecturers, these are the people that did this. You know, it would be a little bit difficult for them to go on ahead and now victimize me, because everyone knows exactly why. Everyone would realize that this is exactly why. But for campus settings, it's quite different. So I would say rely on getting.
So I guess we lost Kiki.
Okay.
You know, to be that.
Okay.
Yes, as much as possible. And then explore legal options. If you have a lawyer if you're rich enough to get a lawyer, or you can find one of the pro bono lawyers that can represent you outside of the campus. That helps.
Thank you very much, Kiki. So another question, which I know that Louis attempted to answer, I would like to ask maybe Yusuf to answer this. As a campus journalist, how can we expose corruption or irregularities on our campus without facing any form of intimidation from the school authority? And what this person means is, if he is a journalist, or rather a campus journalist in that institution, how does he or she expose corruption without facing any form of intimidation?
Well, if, for example, if it's in a country like Nigeria, that would be a very, very difficult thing to do. But I would prefer that if you're a campus journalist, you're still in the university, and there's a lot to expose, that why don't you engage the services of professional journalists who have no business to, dealing with that university. In Nigeria, there's a lot of impunity. This is not limited to the political actors alone. Even in our universities, impunity is a big, deal. So, but if the ultimate aim is to expose corruption, if you don't mind that others will take the credit, you can assist others to expose the corruption, and so that nobody will be able to trace anything to you. If the ultimate is just to expose the corruption and you notice that you can be of help, I believe it's better you engage in the services of journalists who are not tied to such a university, so that there won't be any problem. For example, even if you are not in the, if I talk from experience now, even I wasn't tied to University of Ilorin, but if I tell you my experience, it was really, really bloody. You won't believe it, that even former journalists, I mean retired editors, who are enlisted. I'm talking about the one I did about University of Ilorin, the current registrar of JAM. They were coming, emissaries were coming to my office for more than 1 month, every day. And they were coming every day. They went as far as meeting the publisher. They did everything to make sure I was sacked. They will call you all sort of names. Some of them said somebody was, paid me 20 million to do this story. Of course, they couldn't mention anybody. Then they couldn't trace anything to me. So it's always a big deal when you want to expose corruption, and especially in an environment where there's a lot of impunity. So that's some of the little challenges, but anyone that is determined wouldn't mind. I will go ahead and see to whatever that is professionally necessary.
Thank you, Yusuf. So Louis, a question for you is, what would you have done differently carrying out this investigation, the investigation on fake degrees? Is there anything you would have done differently?
As a Center of Investigative Journalism, in terms of other issues we are publishing, or especially on this investigation?
Specifically on that investigation, did you achieve your end goal? Do you think there was a step you missed? Do you think there was anything you missed?
Yeah, it was important because on past years we are seeing some people holding positions, even at a professional position at big, huge companies. In a place was supposed to be occupied by the people who as qualified to do those jobs. So it's this case for us, it was just a first sample of the another cases that we have in our society. We can build a clear society with those kind of people who appear on TV and discuss about the country, about international issues without legally title to do that. So that's what's important to us in this work. Not yet finished because it's ongoing. We want to show with clear evidence that we can grow as a country, building a society with those kind of people.
Okay. Thank you, Louis. So I'll throw the same question to Kiki. Do you think you missed anything?
That's an interesting question, because for a very, very long time, I felt like there was so much more we could have done. And that is because some of the things that we saw, I just feel like we could have exposed a lot more. But unfortunately, that's like the downside of this job. There is a lot to expose, and you would always feel like you haven't done enough. But, you know, critically thinking about how we went about what we did, I think that we did our best. And if I could change anything, it would probably to apply more vim and more passion, if it's possible.
Thank you, Kiki. To Yusuf, I'm asking you the same question, but I also want to ask, so someone has asked for your publication, where the 3-part publication is published. Could you just direct us to where we can read this investigation and then answer the question, do you think you missed anything?
Okay, if you go on Google, just say how corruption, nepotism thrive in Uniloreal. You will see the 3-part series. What did I miss? When I try to look at it over again, there was a lot that I was supposed to have done, or published, that I didn't publish. And why? If you happen to have worked in Tell magazine, you see an incredible level of editorial courage. You can do everything as long as you're on the path of the truth. But some of our newspapers, there is a lot of entrenched interests. You know what I mean? So I was afraid not to give out too much. Even the little that I gave out, it was a huge backlash. And do you know, I don't know what to say to what we did that time. It was really, 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 for a long time. It wasn't easy in my office. And you see everybody, including colleagues, bosses. But I enjoyed a very solid, relationship with my editor then. The editor is no longer, another person is the editor. So many of those things we couldn't do today because that's provided the opportunity for the other interests to monitor what we do more critically than, it was the case. So now if you do any little thing, you will work very hard to get it published, honestly. That does it.
Thank you, Yusuf. So Louis, the power of collaboration, were you able to collaboration? What's the role of collaboration in your investigation, or rather in that investigation?
The role of
collaboration.
With as I said on the beginning, that our story, for example, we had a big collaboration first on Facebook. It was free for change, because we saw a post, someone anonymous. Because the guy who would make that denounce on Facebook, he never revealed the name, so we follow the guy who posted that story. So this is the one we can consider one form of collaboration there. So from Facebook. So and then we did, but On our website, we advise people with safety guides to, when they have denuncias, to come through us, and then we begin an investigation on that way. So it's open from everyone who wants to share someone and give us leaks for beginning investigation. So that's, and we are doing other things, is training young people to do stories. Our best stories this year was made by interns in the north. So we give training them, and so we told them that your form of collaborations and hear this story, so we can work together, make mentoring, and counting this story for public interest.
Thank you, Lewis. Mr. Yusuf, a question for you is, what aspects of campus journalism remains unexplored and needs more exposure and investigation? I think we lost Yusuf. Kiki, would you be interested in answering that? Oh, okay, Yusuf is back. So my question, rather the question, Yusuf, is what aspect of campus journalism remains unexplored and needs more exposure and investigation?
Because in Nigeria, the issues are still very much there. You look at the way our university governance is structured. You see that government, controls. I'm talking about, public universities now. Government controls a lot. It's the government that puts in place the governing council, and it is the governing council that usually recruits vice chancellor and all that. So when you look at what evil the level of political interference is doing in our universities, you will agree that there's a lot to do in that aspect. So that's why you see our universities all the time having crises, that the governing council is fighting the vice chancellor is fighting that, all that. It's about who controls, the pulse, the finance. So that is not properly, reported in Nigeria. Then when you dovetail this into admission processes in Nigeria, there are so many people all over our campuses who are admission merchants. They collect a lot of money from people who seek admissions. In the US where I went to school, you don't need to know anybody. All you need to do is to have the required, just get the requirements, ready, and if you meet their specifications, you are admitted. But in Nigeria, a lot comes in from political interference. Then those who don't have access to political, actors, you have to pay a lot of money. So these areas, they are truly underdeveloping our academic sector. We are not really, reporting much of this. Then when you go deep into each school, be it private, be it public, what you will say about promotion and discipline in the university, is not strictly by merit. It's like they hardly do things on merit in our campuses again, and you will wonder. So you see professors behaving even worse than our political actors. Then you ask, well, what has come to our universities? So much of this we are not, as far as I'm concerned, we are not reporting them along. One man died recently. Maybe you know him, Professor Mbayo. Professor Mbayo was an international media, scholar and teacher. So he came to do his Fulbright, tenure at University of Lagos. And when he was leaving more than 10 years ago, he called me and said, Yusuf, that he had one thing he wanted to tell me before departing. And I said, okay, what is it? He said Nigerian journalists that the amount of energy and time they spend in reporting political actors, that is the political sector, if they spend 1/4 of that time reporting the academic sector, I can guarantee that it won't take Nigeria 20 years before a total turnaround will take place. I said, what? He said, the kind of rot we have in our universities, there's no nation will have that and ever prosper. I still keep that in my mind.
Thank you, Yusuf. We're gradually coming to the end of this webinar, 5 minutes, and I'd like to ask the panelists to just give us their closing remarks, closing shots, closing thoughts, and what you think participants should take away from this meeting, this conversation. So I'll start with Kiki. 1 minute, please.
Okay, I just wanted to talk about the importance of collaboration. I noticed someone asked that question. Traditional media will tell you that your brand is your brand, the opposing brand is the opposing brand. But in the work that I've done, I found myself collaborating with people from different media houses who come together to tell a very beautiful story. And I think what I'll tell participants right now is the stories need to be told, all right? It doesn't matter, whether you've perfected the craft of telling them. You need to start telling the stories until you get better at it. So go out there and tell the story. Yeah, I think that's it from me. Thank you so much for having me on the platform.
Thank you, Kiki. So, Louis.
Basically, my words are the same of the Kiki. So the more the story must be told, it's the truth must be told. So as an investigative journalist, one important thing is being patient. Yeah, if you being patient, we'll have a good story to tell to your readers. Yeah, that's very important. And still organize, make your database, organize your ideas, organize your file, put everything, join, checking every day, back tomorrow, make it cross-checking. That's very important to have a good story. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Over to you, Yusuf.
I would say the same thing with Kiki. The aspect of collaboration, we are not doing well in that aspect. And it's like the spirit of investigative reporting. If we collaborate more, we will achieve more. That's true.
Okay, so that was very spot on. Collaboration is very key. Thank you for speaking about it, Kiki. Thank you, Louis, and thank you, Yusuf, for reinforcing it. And so we've come to the end of this. And I'd like to thank everyone, every participant, every panelist for being a part of this session. And let's remember, let's collaborate. That's the only way we can make a difference. That's the only way we can tell stories. That's how we can drive change in our campuses so that we can develop our nation, develop our countries. And I'd like to thank AIJC for having me moderate this session. Thank you, panelists, for having me guide you. And I hope that the next time I have to do so, I'll do that wonderfully well. And on that note, have a fantastic afternoon and a good weekend.